But there is a proposition for a $4.2 billion environmental bond issue. Taxpayers will be asked whether or not they want to allow the state to borrow that amount of money to be used for various infrastructure projects and certain climate change programs. Polls show New Yorkers are very much in favor of this, but as we always say, the only poll that matters is tomorrow once all votes are cast. Channel 2's Ron Plants got to speak one-on-one with the Commissioner of the State Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC. And Ron, I know he will, of course, be a major player if this is implemented, should it pass. What did you learn in talking with him?
Well, Mike, first off, a little background. The last time the state did something of this magnitude, it was 1996 for almost $2 billion, about 1.75. This time around, Governor Cuomo's original request for this bond act was for $3 billion. But as Governor Hochul took over, it increased to $4.2 billion, the current amount, which is what you're going to see on that ballot today, or if you voted tomorrow, rather, and if you voted before. So we asked DEC Commissioner Basil Seggos for some idea of the primary usage of this money.
What $4.2 billion means? Well, it's a major down payment in helping to control water on the landscape. So you think about culverts that need to be widened, bridges that need to be widened, wetlands areas that need to be expanded to help retain some of that water.
Now, also $500 million to be allocated for the state to work with school districts around the state to start switching over their school bus fleets from diesel to all electric powered buses, which do indeed cost us twice as much, $400,000 or more as compared to diesel, but will reportedly last longer and need fewer repairs. Some school superintendents here say this is going to be a very heavy lift for them and taxpayers, even with that $500 million in assistance. Michael?
So, Ron, nice to hear that, because obviously people want to know specifics, right, of how this money will be spent before they decide if they're going to vote yes or no on something like this. So good to kind of have that breakdown. But what about the bigger picture, just when you look at this massive price tag for something like this and how it's going to be paid over the longer term?
Well, yeah, there's a lot in here. I asked the commissioner about the overall future debt for the state with this. Even as lawmakers in Albany passed their largest budget ever earlier this year, there are some debt watchers over there. They actually have debt clocks who claim that the state already has some $60 billion in debt from past borrowing.
What would you say to those people who say, I'm not so sure we want to have more debt coming out of Albany here?
Right. Well, listen, I think, New Yorkers are going to pay for it one way or another. They pay a little bit more now to prepare our communities for severe weather, or we pay substantially more in the coming years to recover from severe weather.
Now, Commissioner Seggos also did mention working on infrastructure to help handle cleanup and storm runoff affecting local waterways like the Scajaquada Creek and Buffalo River. But he also pointed out that the federal government offers over $360 billion to all the states as part of that Infrastructure Act passed by Congress. Seggos says that funding will help leverage the state's efforts and help create green energy jobs and spur the economy. This all gets involved here. We'll also note that just last week, the state on its own offered up $300 million in infrastructure money to communities around the state. So overall here, a lot of money at stake and a big decision for voters and taxpayers, and an issue indeed tied to climate change, Michael.
And Ron, interestingly, even though we have quite a few races on the ballot this year, they always say when you deal with these propositions, turn your ballot over. And in some cases, you need to do that. My ballot here in Erie County in the city of Buffalo, it's actually on the front of the ballot.
That's what we understand. I think there was even some confusion with some of the others who were advocates for this program. Yeah. And they had said back of the ballot, but I understand it is indeed on the front of the ballot at the bottom, I believe. So yeah, there you go.
I know a lot of choices to make tomorrow. This is among the important ones. Ron, thank you.